U.S. approves first transfer of seized Russian funds to Ukraine.
Here's a summary of the article.
United States Attorney General Merrick Garland has authorized the first transfer of funds seized from Russian oligarchs to aid Ukraine. In a statement on Wednesday, Garland said the money seized from Russian oligarch Konstantin Malafeyev will go towards the war-torn country, which Russia invaded on February 24, 2022. While this represents the United States' first transfer of forfeited Russian funds for the rebuilding of Ukraine, Garland said, it will not be the last. Following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Garland announced a new task force, dubbed KleptoCapture, that specifically targeted Russian oligarchs who sought to evade the deluge of U.S. sanctions imposed against Russian entities. U.S. President Joe Biden called on Congress last year to make it easier to transfer seized oligarch assets to Ukraine. In December, Congress passed a law that allowed certain assets seized by the Justice Department to be funneled to Ukraine via the U.S. Department of State. In April, the Justice Department asked Congress to expand the assets that can be sent to Ukraine, particularly funds seized for violating export controls.
This post received a score of 26,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
It's only millions of dollars? It seems. Only the money from one specific oligarch called Konstantin Malafeyev. But it will not be the last. Edit, $5.4 million.
Putin next.
It is Putin's money actually. See, he himself has no noteworthy assets attached to himself. Officially he has like a $100,000 United States dollar salary equivalent and a relatively small house. Oligarchs are his personal piggy banks instead. They choose to fund various activities he needs. And in case they choose not to, they either lose access to their funds. I think Oleg Tinkov is a good example. He said this war is fucked up, so Russia seized his assets, or find themselves dangerously close to murderous windows. So every time you take money from an oligarch, you take money from Putin.
I can't remember the details, but isn't there a law or something where the state gets a bunch of an oligarch's money when they die? So when there was that spate of oligarchs and their families dying at the beginning of the war, that was basically Putin breaking open some piggy banks.
Amazing that these small amounts of money can make a difference in a war.
This was a relatively small amount of money for the war, but this was just what the US managed to seize from one account that they managed to link to one oligarch. When Putin kills an oligarch, they're going to know where almost all their assets and accounts are, so they're getting a lot more than a few million. Russian oligarchs are usually worth billions, so that definitely makes a difference in funding the war effort.
Besides, it's not like they're substantially feeding or clothing their draftees, so that's a savings right there. And when 90% of the military spending disappears, you just have to pick up an oligarch and shake it back out.
Greater than besides. It's not like they're substantially feeding or clothing their draftees. I mean, they already built the Mosins, so that's a huge savings right there.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
How to say yoink in Russian.
Basically means oops.
How do you spell it in English letters?
I'd say Latin rather than English, if I get to be nitpicky, though.
Y. U. Definitely G. T2. E-nit. Icky.
I'm sure this will make Marjorie upset somehow.
Less Russian money to fund her campaign.
Oh, wouldn't that be some just desserts? We start taking the oligarchs' money, and the Republican super PAC starts drying up.
So Russia is funding Ukraine to defend themselves from the Russian invasion. Great.
Belgium is doing the same. The next military support package will be financed with 200 meters worth of Russian assets. And Belgium has frozen much more than the United States, more than $200 billion. Yes, billion. Thanks to Euroclear, so bad week for Putin. Belgium has unexpectedly become the biggest sanctions powerhouse in the world, so I can only hope the United States backs Belgium all the way, because I can imagine some politicians in Brussels are feeling very anxious. Huge responsibility out of nowhere.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.